Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Clinic Gym Radio. I am your host, Dr. Josh Satterlee, and I'm joined today by Dr. Kirk Mason. Kirk, what's new?
Not much. Excited to be on again. It's been a while.
Yeah, right. Not much. You got about 1,000 things going on right now, but I'm sure that's why we're going to cover it in this podcast. So, for everybody listening, I would say that Kirk is definitely one of the, when you start a company like Clinic Gym and you offer the stuff, Kirk is one of the guys that was like, hey, I'll take whatever you got plus 10% more and I'll implement it. You would call me Monday and have something implemented by Friday. You're incredible at that, Kirk. So
well, thank you.
That's fantastic. For everybody listening who might first time with you, can you tell us where you're located and what your current setup is? And we might go back in time to kind of look at other setups.
Yeah, I'm located in Minot, North Dakota. Our clinic and our gym are in two separate locations, both here in town. Minot's a town of about 50,000 people, give or take. We got two separate spots right now.
And what's the square footage of each of those?
The gym's about 2,400 square feet, I believe. And then the clinic is a little less. I think it's just under 2,000.
Okay, cool. And that has been the setup since when?
2016, me and Becky started Premier Chiropractic. 2018, we were introduced to you, and you kind of opened us up to the gym model.
Let's go back real quick. 2016, you guys start and give me an idea, like physical space of what you start in.
I think it was about 1,400 square feet for two docs.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And like an open rehab area or what?
Not really. No, it was closed rooms at that time. Okay. I think off the start, we had our main treatment rooms. I had like an acupuncture room, and then we had a small rehab room.
Okay. Cool.
But most of my rehab early on was like on the table. It was in the treatment room. We actually didn't have much of a space for rehab.
Yeah. But you're a pretty skilled DNS practitioner, so you're just doing it on the table?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, cool. And very space efficient. And for everybody listening, Becky is not Kirk's wife, just happened to have a female business partner, but she's been down for the cause, right? Like you guys you see eye to eye quite well.
Yeah, we've got along. I think that's something you hear a lot, kind of like coming out of school is never do a partnership. And I would say, I do understand that. Like, it's just like a marriage, right? You have to really get along with that person and you're going to be with them a lot. But for me, like starting out, it obviously cut all of our expenses almost in half. And we've done nothing but get along. We haven't, it's worked out perfect for us. And we actually have a third partner now too. So
yeah, maybe it's better you don't go home with her and you guys get a clean break from each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. So you start out in 1,400 square feet. You hear me in 2018, and kind of how does the physical space get modified?
At that point, we had the opportunity to take over next door, which was about another 600 or 700 square feet. And then we did that. We built it up mostly ourselves at that time. So it was kind of a passion project. We ran 4 to 6 person group classes out of that little space for, I think, about a year and a half, maybe.
Cool. And so I want to kind of establish our regular numbers. So you had, let's just say 2,000 square feet, of which 600 was gym. I mean, it was a funky shape too. Like,
yeah, it was.
Yeah. The best way I can describe
it was a really weird layout.
Yeah. Weird is being nice. Yeah. Well, it wasn't the most efficient for flow of people either, right?
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, even clinic side, but
yeah.
It works.
But you guys did it, and in that 600 square feet, you were running 4 to 6 person classes. How many memberships, like true people paying a monthly memberships, did you get up to at your highest there before you changed?
I think we were just under 40. Yeah, that was kind of our target number, was 40. Okay. That's what we figured we could, because obviously when you're in your own space, then you have the option to run classes whenever you want to run classes. But when you have it with the gym, you're a little bit limited as to the times you can run classes. So I believe we ran them mornings, one class at noon, and then some afternoon classes is kind of how we ran it at the start. While we were seeing patients, we didn't run classes. We found it just to be a little too loud. So we didn't run classes at the time patients were there, but the space was then used for rehab on the times that we weren't, or we were treating patients instead of class.
So you were kind of physically limited to about 35 to 40 memberships because you just, between time and space, you couldn't have any more.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, up until that point, for those listening, what I'd love to explore, Kirk, and we're going to hit this a couple times, but so there you are with Becky before you open the gym. And I don't know the ratio we can say here, but when you added in a gym and a trainer doing rehab in there and classes, what did you guys see as an increase in your revenue? So like, let's say for every 100,000 that you made and 100,000 that Becky made, was there a noticeable bump on top of that, of this business that the gym was bringing in or the trainer was bringing in?
Like, are you asking the rehab CA or are you asking like the gym itself?
Yeah, however you want to break it out. Let's start with the rehab CA, because I think that's something that people could literally start doing like next week, right?
Yeah. So the first thing we had to do before we brought in a rehab CA was just establish that it was allowed in our state. And we got lucky that when we really looked hard into it in 2019, actually, I believe that's when it was, the laws kind of changed with insurance and stuff, and that if they were a certified chiropractic assistant, then they could do rehab. Before that, they couldn't. So again, I think if you're going to do that, definitely check with your state. But for us, we got lucky that the timing turned out to be perfect. And then that added a lot for us. Just two of us chiropractors, we were busy, kind of booked the vast majority of the time with Becky and I, especially as we were kind of getting to year 3, year 4 in practice. So that helped us just for an efficiency sake for like treating patients. It allowed us to double book sometimes. It allowed us to see more people in less time. And it allowed me to keep up with my notes, which it was very nice. So I don't know if I noticed early on, we probably didn't notice like a direct, probably did have a little bit of an increase in revenue. I don't know the numbers, but I would say it probably did increase revenue a bit just because it allowed us to see more people. But I think the bigger thing it allowed us was time. Because with starting the gym, that was one thing that, as I've gone more and more into this, time has become more and more important. Because my time is being yanked in a lot of different directions now. Instead of just treating patients, life's a whole lot different now. So that is one thing that I would say is like the biggest thing a CA who is good at rehab can do is it just gives you time. And then the gym side for revenue, I have to pull it up. I believe like end of 2018 was kind of when we started with our first challenge. And then 2019 was kind of when we took off. I don't know exact numbers. I will say like our clinic still brings in way more in terms of like what we make and in terms of just like overall revenue. Like talking with Brian, like Brian Strump, his would be the exact opposite of ours. Whereas he has like, $1 million gym and his clinic brings in a lot less. Ours would be kind of the opposite side of that, even though the gym's grown a lot still.
Yeah. And just for context for everybody, Brian has 12,000 square feet of gym space and a small office carved out of that. And he's 8 years into this. So
exactly. And he's very, I think he had said next year he's going to be, I can't remember if he said next year, but eventually he's going to transition out of treating patients. Right. Yeah. So it's a little different.
Right. And at the same time, your clinic, it's not like it's just you and Becky, right? You've continued to get more efficient, grow, add in rehab CAs, add in associates, add in other doctors.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So
it's tough to find those clean numbers because it's like at no point did you go, we're only going to do this. We're only going to add this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's the clinic revenue, I would say, is 4 to 5x right now of what the gym is.
Okay.
But again, I'm not working in the gym, so it's a lot different.
So you get 20% of your revenue from a business you're minimally involved in.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a bad thing.
Right.
So going back to when you added that rehab CA, you said it made you more efficient, right?
Yeah.
Talking about freedom or getting your time back, or I always think one of the things it does is it breaks you free of like the idea of being handcuffed to your table all the time, right? You can send to somebody within your office. You can stratify your patients like, hey, this is a complicated case that really needs me and only me. And then the base of your pyramid, people that are like the 3 out of 10 mechanical low back pain that's starting their 3rd week of treatment. It's like, yawn.
Yes.
This isn't that. I care about Mr. Johnson, but he doesn't need to see me for the entire time. What did you notice you were sending to your rehab CA at that time?
Yeah, a lot of like you just said, like a lot of the lower level rehab, that's fairly straightforward cases. Pretty much even now, like most of that is handed off to the CA. It has to be a pretty complex, like they're not, like I would say maybe they need work in like neurodynamics or like, some of like the more complex stuff where although we do, they kind of understand McKenzie and MDT. Like we've taught them that system almost because it's pretty straightforward. Although there's obviously stuff that can come up there too. But, like neurodynamics, I would say they don't do a lot of that. They know we do a little bit, I would say less of like the complex DNS movements, a lot less than we used to. We kind of have our few favorites that we like. And then they have the whole kind of playbook of FRC that we use a whole lot too. So they do a ton of that. Now, if you wanted to, for those familiar with FRC, like if you wanted to progress out of Pales rails and you wanted to do something like end range hovers or anything like that, that would be something I would probably do. They're not super familiar with like the progressions from that, but they're really, really good at cars and they're really, really good at Pales rails.
Okay, cool. And if tomorrow you got the flu and you couldn't come in, what percentage of your patients could your rehab CA handle? Like if you look at tomorrow's schedule.
Yeah, we don't do it that way. They have to see the doc first and then they see the rehab CA. So if I were to call in sick tomorrow, the first thing we would do is they could either see another chiropractor here in our clinic or they could reschedule and see me at a later date. But we don't allow people to actually come in and just see the rehab CA. That's not,
okay.
That's just not really our model.
Okay, that's fine. But I was trying to go for the efficiency of, one of the downsides of being a chiropractor, doing anything hands-on is if you ain't there, you ain't making money. Like,
yeah, for sure.
And so oftentimes these people allow us to kind of extend that and get more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I would say this idea came out of reading Chris Cooper from Two Brain Business's book, Founder, Farmer, Tinker, Thief, which is an amazing book for any entrepreneurs. But basically he talks in there about like creating your perfect day. So I think I read this like 2 years ago and kind of just like crafting your day to where you would exactly want it. So what I did, about a year ago is I just started taking off 3 hours in the middle of my day that I would never have done before. And then I go home and I do a zone 2 run for an hour and I work out for an hour. I eat and then I come back. So that's kind of my next step into like creating my perfect day, is that like I have the time where I can actually do that. Whereas if I was early on and I didn't have a CA and I was seeing everyone myself, it would be hard. I just couldn't see as many people, I would say, and I would have to be at work longer hours, either doing notes or anything like that. So it's time. It really frees up time is the biggest thing that I've noticed.
Awesome. So if we talk about how those progressions, if we go back, you had a 600 square foot gym, you're sitting about 40, just under 40 members. and then you guys decide, hey, we got to expand this. We're doing well. You still only had 2 doctors at that time, right? When you opened the separate location?
Yep. Correct.
All right. So you guys open the separate gym, which is, would you say it's like a mile down the street, or I can't remember, you said 2 miles down the street?
Yeah, it's like a 10-minute drive.
Yeah. Far. So you open that 2,400 square feet, and you decked it out pretty nicely, right?
Yep.
Maybe too nicely, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we were definitely, I actually don't regret that though. Cause we have,
I'm just messing with you.
We charge the most of anyone in town. So like, if you're going to be that high quality service, I would say your building should reflect that.
Yeah. So you guys build that. And when do you actually move your gym into that?
It was, I think, end of 2019. So just pre-COVID.
Yeah. So you move into that, and let's just skip over the kind of COVID hump.
Yep.
After it was open for a year, so late 2020, how are you doing member-wise? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think we went, I think by end of 2020, we had just got back to where we were pre-COVID. So I think we're at about 75, around there, 75 or 80 members.
Okay. So you started with 35 to 40 in your place. You basically, if we just smooth everything out, you dipped, you transferred those people over to your gym. There were some changes in there, and you got back to double that. So basically 80 members, right?
Yep.
How long did you seem to hover right around that 80 member mark?
It seemed like a while. It seemed like we were working towards that 100 member mark for a while.
Yeah. This is one thing I want to share with people that I wanted to have you on for, Kirk. There's this idea like, and it makes logical sense. I'm just going to add 3 members a month or 5 members a month or whatever. And it's just going to be this like linear growth path, and just go straight up at a 45-degree angle. And it's never like that. And like you're saying, you sat at that 80 member mark, like people, we added 5, but we lost 4. We added 6, but we lost 6. So-and-so, we had 3 members drop down to halftime, or our lowest members. And that's totally normal. And I hear it from everybody, but there's also that idea of like you as a business owner kind of have to grow, right? Or you have to expand out of your 80 member mindset and operations, right?
Right.
So how long were you at 80-ish members before you feel like, hey, we actually changed in a big way?
It was probably into 2021, probably early 2021, I'd say.
So you went through almost an entire year of sitting right there, hovering. Okay, cool.
Maybe a little less than that. I could probably pull it up on Wodify, but we did a lot of challenges back then, so it would kind of like dip and come up and down depending on challenges. I would say 6 months to a year, somewhere in there.
Cool.
Working hard to hit that 100 mark.
So, and what did you learn there? I mean, so let's go back to your early ones, your early kind of, so you get into the gym, you have 40 members and you're bumping up to 80. What kind of changed there?
When we bumped back up to 80, that was, as we bumped up to 80 initially, we were obviously in a new space. We spent a little more marketing dollars. So if I remember right, we went from 40 kind of up to like that 75 range fairly quick after we got in that new space. COVID, got back up to where we were pre-COVID. And then after that, coming out of 80 to kind of what was our goal, which was 100. It's just kind of, it's just I don't think there's any like single thing. I think it's just kind of the continual grind. Like your marketing, it's like, it doesn't pay off on one day. It's just like a slow build. And just like everything else, like word of mouth gets around. I remember early days, like we thought everyone knew who we were. And the truth was that like no one knew who we were. Like, yeah, we're
people might
like,
still
people
not know
about yeah, people like you hear about the clinic, but that doesn't mean that, that many people even know about the gym. So yeah, it's just word of mouth. All of that kind of builds on each other, I would say.
All right. And I'm trying to think about this from the level of like, your facility expanded, your business expands, and you expand, right? And it's like,
yeah.
And then you realize, if we took you and put you as the head of 24-hour fitness, it's like you're not ready for that much of a change, but you're ready for more than you have now,
Right.
So how about this? Let me ask you this. What did you learn about having two separately located businesses?
Yeah, that was interesting. We had, like I said, like when we hit 40 members, we kind of had to make that decision, because it's like, do you kind of bottleneck where you're at, maybe increase your rates and keep increasing your rates, and maybe you can make a little more, money early on that way, but then you're definitely going to plateau. And then since I was introduced to this model, I've had a dream of having multiple locations. So for me, I was like, well, if we're going to prove that we can actually have multiple locations like around the state, having a different location, even in town, is something that we should at least prove to ourselves that we can do. So that's one thing that we kind of looked at, was that if you're going to go with the multiple locations, which is a dream of ours, then you should probably have really, really good systems and have everything really locked down, because you're not there. So it's kind of the same thing here. Like I'm not at our gym very often anymore. To be honest, I don't even work out there a lot anymore, because it's kind of like if a bar owner doesn't drink at his bar, because everyone complains about the bar. So it's kind of the same thing at the gym. Like Nancy will complain about her shoulder. I'm like, okay, I'm just here to work out, kind of thing. So I'm not there very often anymore. A lot of our employees still work out over there and everything, but I tend to work out at home in my garage a little more often now. But yeah, that's kind of how that went. Early on, it was hard because we were very used to having everything under one roof. So delegating to employees over there was a lot different. I would say actually COVID maybe helped us a little bit in that everything went virtual. So wow. Then, we had to, it just taught us like, okay, we don't really need to meet in person all that often. So our team meetings kind of went away at that point. We still have team meetings every once in a while, but at that point we're having weekly team meetings. We don't do that anymore because I think we have 12 trainers or something like that. So getting everyone together is impossible. So we send a lot. We have like a WhatsApp group where we send videos and we communicate a lot more virtually that way, which obviously if you're going to have multiple locations, that's going to be a huge piece of the puzzle. So the trainer trainings, like I do a trainer training twice a week, and it's just through video, and we send it. We make them like it. If they have any questions, we discuss it kind of in the text group, and then we do it a little more that way. So it probably, I think it did teach us some really good lessons. Although we bought a building and we have a big build out, we should be in there in about a year, and we'll have everything back under one roof. And to be honest, it's going to be a lot nicer. It's just a lot easier having everything under one roof. Like, let's say we have a noon class and we have our trainer that's scheduled for that. Like right now we're doing no sweat intros. We're just having a tough time finding the time with our two trainers that are trained to do the intros, because they're also have a lot of one-on-one personal training and they have a lot of group class. So like finding a time to get someone in, well, if we were all under the same roof, we could just send our rehab CA over, teach the noon class. They could run the no sweat intro and we'd be fine. So having it under one, it doesn't seem like a lot, that 10-minute difference, like of a drive, but it's definitely a deterrent for people covering classes.
Yeah, I've experienced that ourselves. We had the opportunity to take over a fitness space at a country club, and it's quote unquote only half an hour away, and it exposed us to all these people. And it's like, you don't realize how much inconvenience there is when you can't, like you said, just run and grab something,
Yes. And if they have a question about like someone, it's like they have to at least save that for the end of the day. Like they can't just run over quick and ask you. And
Yeah.
it
All right. So
presents a lot of
you
problems.
said a lot in there. Like you covered a whole lot of stuff that I think a lot of people are probably swimming in their mind. Number one, staffing. Let's just cover that. When you opened the separate gym, what were your staffing levels like?
We just had one trainer at that time.
Okay.
Carol, yeah, we just had one trainer, and she
was the same trainer from the blended facility that you had before, right?
Correct. Yep. And then, when we moved into the new space, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we had, I don't know the exact number, maybe like 5 trainers at that time.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, we had a few. Like Becky's husband, Luke, has been a trainer with us for a long time. We have teachers that do some summer, do some weekends. I'm trying to think back to when everyone started. Maybe like 3 to 5 trainers at that time.
Okay.
And one
pause real quick. I think that this is an area where you have excelled, and I don't know if you realize how much you said. You did a great job of training up. So first you had was it Carolyn that you trained from basically 0 to, she's pretty damn good at rehab, right? And then she went up even higher to exercise. How did you end up with 5, trainers, whether they're teachers or whatever, that were able to do this? Do you have a formalized training program? Education program? Okay.
Yep. So we have kind of step-by-step process. It's about a month of pretty intensive training. I'm actually trying to automate it right now. I'm going through that process of just getting it all in text and email automation so they can read the articles and do all that kind of stuff. But then I don't train them anymore. I used to. I trained Carolyn, and that one I was probably overly obsessive about like cues and form and stuff like that. But she turned into a great trainer. So now, actually Carolyn is over at the clinic now. Kyla's our head trainer over there, and Kyla trains our new trainers now. So I am hands off at this point. But it wasn't always that way. I would say for the first 2.5 years of the gym, it was all me. I was training them just after training patient time, and it just got to be a lot. So we kind of systemized it, and it's all off my plate now.
Okay. So everybody listening, I hope you realize, a big part of our live events, for example, is setting up a staff training schedule, because the power and the freedom that occurs once you have, 2 people in your building that are understand your progress and doing everything. It's crazy what happens when you just get a little bit of breathing room. I'm not saying adding in 7 trainers who could work 40 hours a week. I'm saying like a couple people that can work a few hours, and you're like, oh man,
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And the other side of that coin, share a little bit, because a common thing, I'm sure you've seen this in the Facebook group, is like, oh, I tried to hire a trainer in my area. I got all these people that are, they're this certified and that certified and XYZ, and none of them wanted to work for me or whatever. Can you describe a little bit about the background of most of your trainers, and then also how hungry they have been to learn to become the person that you would say, hey, slap our logo on your chest, like Premier Movement or Premier Chiropractic? There's an expectation there. Like they can't just be just can't be in the business of getting people sweaty without getting them better.
Yeah. I hire people, not certifications. So I really don't care what certification people have. That's like really low on my list of things I look for, to be honest. It's nice if they have, I don't know. It's like I look at it, okay, great, and then I move on. Like that's about the extent of a certification, because our training process will give them what they need to train at our gym. I think, in my personal opinion, it's just like at the clinic here. You should hire good people and people that are like willing to learn. I can tell, like you can tell with a trainer whether they're going to be like bubbly in class or whether they're going to really kind of not own the room. Like if you have 12 people, 12 grown adults, you have to have someone who, even if they're 19 years old, they have to have a certain personality to be able to command a room. So we've been really lucky with I have a really good relationship with the kinesiology department at the college here at Minot State. So I kind of the head of that. I text with her often. I say, we need 2 trainers coming up next year. She'll give me the 2 top names of the whole department. And then I reach out to them, and that's who we just hired 2 new trainers, I would say a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. Yeah, 2 months ago. And they both came from her. So we kind of have that little pipeline. Also brought in a trainer that used to work at like a franchise who helps us out with some stuff. Yeah, and they don't have they don't have a CFSC, they don't have like a strong first cert, and that's totally fine with me. I don't get worried about that at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you another question though. They come from another franchise, or they come from a kines department, like they're well educated, but how comfortable are they at like get down to work with a single client or in a class right away? Is there a big disconnect
Not
there?
right away. Yeah, there's a disconnect right away for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it takes time. So the first thing we do is we require them to come to like 3 workouts a week. And I think that's honestly like the ones that we had that didn't succeed. I can think of a couple that we had that went through the training and we just said, this isn't going to be a great fit. Those are the ones that came to like 1 class every 2 weeks. Like if you're going to be a trainer, you have to train, and you have to understand what your clients are doing and what it feels like and what that flow of class is like. You have to understand all of that like to a T. So for a month, you got to get in at least 12 workouts. So that's like baseline number 1. And then we have training above and beyond that. But that's one big one that we've found is that like if they're not training with us, there's a decent chance they're not going to be a great fit.
Wow. Nice. All right. Yeah. That's a good tip for everybody. So hire people, not certifications. Be ready to educate the hell out of them, because you are no slouch at educating them, right?
Yeah.
And then thirdly, get them to actually do the tasks. So if you want to become a dog trainer, grab dogs, right? Like start working on them. That's awesome. Well, wrapping up, and I really appreciate the time. Before we totally wrap up, I have one big question left about profit, because profit is kind of the scoreboard of business, right? Yeah. And you've hit these different scales, and you've never been hurting for profit. But I'd love to hear kind of how it's going now, and with all these things wrapped in. But before we do that, if people want to reach out to you or send you an email or bounce questions off of you, can you give them information on how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can either send through Facebook Messenger, just add me on Facebook or Instagram. My personal cell, I don't mind if they have that, 701-822-1252. Feel free to shoot me a text or a call. Okay. Or my email is kmasonchiro@icloud.com.
All right, perfect. All right, cool. So profitability, the big scoreboard. Before you guys ever had a blended clinic and gym, you were doing pretty well, right? You and Becky built up a good office. And then you add people in, you add services in. Sometimes those things aren't profitable, right? Like you're dumping money into people. Can you take us through different steps of where you're like, holy crap, this is awesome? Did you ever hit a point where you're like, man, I made, $5,000 a month off of a business I never stepped foot in, or, off of these group of trainers? Can you remember those moments?
Yeah. I mean, me and Becky have got, I should say it's me, Becky, and Cody now. So Cody also owns a part of the gym and a part of the clinic. He owns a third of the clinic, and then he owns 25% of the gym now. So Becky owns 25, Cody owns 25, and I own 50 of the gym. And then we're all third partners in the clinic. So one thing I guess me and Becky had to discuss is like, do we bring on another partner? And Cody was a really great fit. So it's 3 of us. And then we also had seen this is a side note, but some chiropractors who had closed up around and in town that didn't get $1 for their business when it closed. So we were like, what the heck do you wait for? And my income hasn't gone down or anything like that. So that's just the side note. We use the money from buy-in to then buy a building. So, essentially, in terms of profit, the clinic, it's not, I don't consider them basically one and the same. I always say that people in general tend to like coming to the chiropractor. A lot of people hate exercise, but so it's completely different, like selling that kind of stuff, in my opinion. So we didn't see a lot of profit, I would say, a little bit, but not a lot of profit in the first couple of years at the gym. The clinic, we made money right away. But we live in a state where reimbursement's very good. We got busy fairly quick. So that was always good. But then, yeah, like the big thing that kind of drew us to the gym as well was like passive income. So I think COVID would be a great example. Like sometimes it's just having multiple streams of income to be able to survive ups and downs and things like that. Or say you go and break your arm and you're, out of practice for a while. So that's kind of what drew us into the gym model. The clinic, I would say we just had our best month ever at the clinic. The clinic's doing great from a profit margin. And to be honest, I don't really remember many days where it wasn't. But the gym on the other side, like the profit was up, COVID down, back to at least somewhat even for the most part of a year, maybe even into a year and a half. And you're still working on the gym in that time, but it was just kind of seeing the end goal. And then one thing that, kind of going on with Brian there, Brian has helped us a lot to just kind of hone in on what exactly we want, kind of refine those systems, and then work on that profit margin, because we use just the profit first model basically at the gym. So kind of the 4/9 goes to your trainer. That's for personal training. And you want 33% profit for your business. The clinic is significantly above that. But again, we're working in the clinic, so it kind of skews those numbers a lot.
Let me ask you this. You don't have to give us hard numbers, but maybe like, again, percentages. You've always been full, right? Since you basically started this thing, like you had a full schedule, right?
Yeah, about a year.
When you look at, yeah. So after a year, if you look at what you made then, what you're taking home, and what you're taking home now, with all these different streams, has it gone up 25%, 50%? Has it doubled? Like your true take home income, if we look at your tax returns, because you haven't there's no way you could have doubled the amount of people you saw once you were full. Right? Like if you're seeing 100 people a week, you can't, I'm going to go 200. Something had to give.
Right. Yep. It's gone up. I would say since year 1 to year 2, it's continually climbed each year. I would say probably the last 2 years, it's been slower increments. And what we've done this year is we've put a lot of money, like, kind of back into our gym. So now that we know that we've got this big building, we got 10,000 square feet coming for clinic and gym, and then some rooms to rent. Now that we know we have that, we're like, well, how can we make another revenue stream? So for us, that was investing in nutrition. So we put, we joined Healthy Steps Nutrition, and we put some money into our trainer, Kyla, learning that. So it's just another source of revenue for us. And it's really something that we toyed with it. We did like a nutrition challenge. Just be honest, we weren't very good at it. I would argue, you need an app, you need all of these things that HSN provided us with, and kind of a step-by-step process to how to price it and all those kinds of things. So they helped us a ton with that. We had weekly trainings, weekly calls with them. Kyla they would kind of go through your intro process, talking you through the sales and all that stuff. And they're pretty, they drill you pretty good. And that made Kyla better just at our intros to begin with, but then really like adding nutrition into that bundle up front. It's been really nice. It's an extra revenue stream, and our members get better results. And then we also kind of changed a little bit out the gate, where before we had challenges. Now the only thing we offer, since we've hit kind of that membership number that we want to be at. We only allow people to come in through what we call your first 100 days. So in that, some of the feedback we got was that when people come in, they just feel they don't really know what's going on in a challenge. Like if you have 20 challengers, it's hard to find time to like prep 20 people for class. It's challenging.
Yeah.
So they were coming in and they felt kind of out of place.
Yeah.
And since we've changed to this, we actually mandatory that they have our 4 foundations classes, which are one-on-one personal training sessions. So
that's cool.
Our model's just changed to more of a commitment up front, I would say.
I'm sure it'll continue to change and evolve, right? As you guys get bigger and bigger and bigger. Cool.
Yeah.
So right now, how big are you looking at having your gym in the future?
It'll be about 3,500 square feet.
Cool. So you're going to have a big clinic, 6,000 square feet, and then a sizable gym?
No, the gym will be 3,500. The clinic will be about 4, and then the rest will be rooms for rent for massage and stuff like that.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Or one business. We haven't decided.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Kirk, this has been super informative. I really appreciate it. Congratulations on all the success. I hope people listen to all the nuggets. And I really appreciate you sharing your information so people can reach back out. I think Kirk helped out early on in the Facebook group and has really kind of hit that next stride. So it's exciting. And I hope to interview you again once you open up the 10,000 square feet,
Thanks, buddy.
The next level.
We appreciate all your help through the whole process.
Dude, it's been exciting to sit here on the sidelines and watch. So congratulations to you and your team. And man, keep it up, because I'm excited to see the #1 fitness and gym franchise in North Dakota.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, on behalf of Dr. Kirk Mason, this is Dr. Josh Satterlee saying, go out there, do what Kirk did, maximize your license, and live the life you dream of. Thanks a lot, Kirk.
You got it. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for checking out these videos. I hope they're useful. We'll cover things like rehab, exercise, business model, progressions, layout, everything else that helps you build a clinic. So if you're interested, you can click here, there, here, or anywhere to get more videos just like this. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you soon.